I'm gonna be around my vegetables. I'm gonna chow down my vegetables. I love you most of all, my favorite vegetable.
Here we have a really nice chard plant. It's about 2 years old, and you can see it's got very beautiful colors on the stems. It not only is edible, but I think it serves as an ornamental plant as well. If you harvest around the outside lower leaves, you can just keep eating this thing forever, I think. Anyway, I will show you how to prepare it in a moment, but right now I also wanted to compare this. If we look up here, here is a brother plant to the chard, and you can see that he is in this little pot, and he is not nearly as happy, not nearly as big as the other one. So I'm thinking that probably chard prefers to have its roots in the ground rather than in small pots. Here we are in the kitchen now with our chard. You can see we have a really nice selection of chard here, good piece. And the trick about chard is the stems are very good, but they're a very different consistency than the leaves. So the way you prepare chard is you simply cut out a bunch of the stem like this, and then set it aside, and then set the leaves aside, and then you do the same thing with the next one. And again, you see I'm simply taking the knife down the sides of the stem, because that's a nice thick crunchy stem. Put the leaf there. Oh, and by the way, you can do exactly the same thing. This is a beet green, and beet greens, by the way, I hope you're eating them because they're the best part of the beet almost. They're really good. And you do the same thing with the beet greens. And you can even mix them in with the chard if you like. And again, here we're simply cutting out the stems. And of course, for a full-fledged meal, you'd be having quite a few of these. I'm just doing these for demonstration purposes here. And tonight, I'm going to mix them up for a nice stir fry. Okay, once you get all the greens cut off, then you simply want to chop them down into smaller pieces that you can use in the stir fry. So I usually do maybe 1 or 2 inch sections like that, and then once you get them, I like to just give it another couple of hits, just so that you get pieces that you can toss and turn in the wok or the frying pan, whatever you use. So now these are ready to go into the frying pan. And now the trick on the stems is that you want to cut the stems. They've already been washed, of course. Everything's been washed very thoroughly. Just for aesthetic purposes, I'll chop off the ends here. And of course, anything that you have for chopping off, you put it in the old worm pile there, because the worms love this stuff. Now this stem is pretty thick, so I think I'm going to cut it down the middle, make it a little bit smaller. And this one here is gigantic. So again, we'll cut it into a smaller piece. When we're going to chop stuff, it's kind of nice to take the super long ones and cut them in half so that you can get them all done a lot quicker. And then you put them all up here ready to go. And then basically I'm going to maybe make half-inch sections. And these are going to be very much like any other crunchy veggie that you fry up, saute it, and now we have these guys. Now when I go to prepare these, I'll show you that you start first with these because these take longer to cook, and then later on the last thing you throw into the stir fry are the leaves because they will cook up in about less than a minute. Okay, the frying pan is getting warm right now. I like to spray it with canola oil. Canola oil is the best oil for frying because it doesn't break down at high temperatures. So that's getting nice and hot. I usually start a stir fry with some pine nuts. Pine nuts are really good for just adding a little extra zing, a little extra flavor. I'll throw in some onions. They're kind of fun to have around also. And here are the beet and the chard stems. And they can go in now because they also can take a little bit of extra cooking. And while these guys are getting going, Now these stems and onions and the pine nuts are starting to look a little bit cooked. Notice the pine nuts are starting to get a little brown, and the stems and the onions aren't as stiff and new as they were. You break the onions up into little pieces here, stir them around. That's what's called a stir fry. Now before you put the leaves in, I like to add a few things. Here's some minced garlic. Good old minced garlic, which is really nice for a little bit of flavor. Stir that around in there. And then I like a little bit of low sodium soy sauce. That always adds a little zing to it. And then a secret ingredient that I love to use on this type of stuff is toasted sesame oil. That just makes it a nice smoky flavor. Really good. Okay, and these guys are coming along pretty good now. Looks like most of the onions are broke up pretty nicely. Everything's starting to be cooked, getting al dente. And they look so good, I think, that I might even put these guys in here now. These are all the leaves, and if you've never done this before, you think, oh God, that's a lot of food. But actually, it's not so much food. It's these guys really lose their volume once they get cooked. Here's a little trick I like to do. Put a little, maybe a teaspoon of water in, get some steam going here. Cover it up and let them steam for a while. You can see how the steam's kind of going around all those nice leaves and kind of getting the heat to go into them. The dish has been steaming now about a minute. A little bit of extra garlic in there. And I like to use a nice big spatula here that makes it easier to turn all this stuff. So we're starting to mix all of the ingredients together so that we'll have a real stir fry that's been stirred up real nice. And you'll notice the leaves are starting to cook down, and the remaining elements are starting to get fully cooked. And I have moderate heat. Some people like to use high heat, but I find semi-high is good enough for me. And there we go. Come at it from different angles to make sure everything is all mixed up. And you can see now how the leaves are rapidly becoming a minority party here. They're no longer the most volume. And I will say that the mixture of all these flavors is just simply delicious. And of course, for all of you carnivores out there, you could be putting in various kinds of meat or fish or chicken or whatever you want. In this case, I'm very happy to have the pine nuts serve as the protein source for this particular dish. And let's see if this is about done. I think it is. Okay, well, I can't stand it any longer. I'm going to go ahead and serve up a little bit of this for me just right now, because this stuff is just too good to pass up. I have turned off the heat, and I think I'll probably let it sit here and stay warm until we have dinner in a little while, but right now I have to eat this. Oh my goodness. This is one of those dishes that makes your brains fall out. Oh God, it's good. Excuse me for talking with my mouth full. So good for you. I have my poor old Earth flag, like our Mother Earth, has seen better days, has been abused, is kind of tattered and torn, and this probably is the best reason why we need to malama Mother Earth.